Okay, so I watched this documentary on a quantum mechanics expert who was exploring the idea that science, in its attempt to measure and explain and understand things, only deals with temporal or things in the physical realm, and that by excluding things that are clearly true and real that exist in some way but cannot be measured by your traditional scientific experiment, by ignoring those things, it's ignoring part of our reality, and by ignoring that is causing science's understanding of reality to be less than complete. And he really started to get into talking about our thoughts, in saying basically the fact that I have thoughts, the fact that you have thoughts, the fact that we humans have thoughts, and that they are unique individual thoughts, and I have thoughts and you have thoughts, but the only way that I can really share those thoughts with you is by trying to communicate with you, that there's no thought where you have a thought and I have a thought at the same time, where we experience the same one thought at the same moment. And he basically said that because it works that way, there must be some dimension there where thoughts go on, that is real and true and measurable, and it is measurable in some ways. His experiments had to do with telepathic communication and measuring the electrical response in two different people's brains as they attempted to communicate without using words or symbols, being in separate rooms. And I found it all very interesting. His conclusion was not necessarily that there was one God, but he felt that there was evidence for a God in the realm of possibilities of how it could be true that we communicate in some realm other than the material physical realm. And he said, if that's possible, then how could we possibly conclude that God is not a spirit, or that there is no such thing as spirit? So I found all that to be very interesting, and I really, those are some thoughts similar to some things that I had experienced. And my question ultimately is, to science, if I have thoughts in my head, and it's a voice that I can hear in my head, and I go through lines of reasoning in my head, of course evolution would argue that those are random firings of chemicals in my head, and that essentially I don't really have thoughts, that all of this is really just random electrical activity, and we happen to call them thoughts, but that doesn't make any sense for reasoning or free will. And my question is, if I have thoughts, in what realm do those thoughts exist? Since you can't record my thoughts, you can record the chemical evidence that I'm having thoughts, brain activity. But where is it that thoughts happen? And wherever that realm is, what else is in that world? And those are things that can't, creativity can't be measured by science. Passion can't be measured by science. And our very thoughts in our own heads that drive us every day, that is the core of our own existence, is our own thoughts. Science cannot record those things. Admittedly, science is able to look at certain parts of the brain and say this person could be thinking about this kind of idea right now because of what's going on in the brain, but that's not the same. That's not what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to point out, the title of this video is Quantum Apologetics, and the basic argument is, when you die and your body stops, you know what happens to your body. But when you die, what happens to the part of you that thinks? Where does the part of you that has a voice in your head, where does that voice go? And to whom are you speaking when you speak to yourself? Are you really speaking to yourself? And if you hear a voice in your head, does that mean it's your own? Could it possibly be that there's more than one being in your spirit area that causes you to hear thoughts? The answer to that question is, it can be a life-changing answer. And in the first chapter of Romans, Scripture says that all men will be held accountable for having the intuitive understanding that there really is a God. Of course, that's a paraphrasing, but you should put some thought on that, because you might believe that your flesh stops when you die, but what happens to your thoughts? Put your trust in Jesus Christ. He's God in the flesh. He changed everything. He can change your life.